the thing is to not edit as little as possible.
All right, good. So we're.
Right.
But if something really disastrous happens, it can be.
Yeah, it'll go.
Yeah.
Don't flip the table
Okay.
over, man.
And
Yeah, just make sure you're just like all. Because when if you have.
Yeah, yeah.
so
all
you
right.
want to be in the
Yeah.
frame, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The left
Right,
hand thing is
I'm
really
like-
freaking me out. Also, like two of the people look kind of similar. Actually, I think it's kind of like
Almost no one watches this stuff on YouTube. It's
Yeah, not
just
really.
all
Don't worry
just-
about
It's
it.
all just audio.
Don't
So
worry
the
about it.
video,
It'll
the
just
video
be
is
Yeah, you're good.
video. The audio is the most important thing. Most people are just listening to it.
Okay, great.
And I usually have a clip before. So anyway, I'll explain. Want me to
Yeah,
start?
there'll be an intro clip to this.
There's no problem if there's not. So if the answer to this question is no, it's not a problem at all. There's no water, right?
Let me see. If
No, but don't.
got some
No,
water.
you should have some water.
No, no.
I have my
Fine,
bottle.
man.
I know you have a GI Joe, and that's good.
Right.
Want me to run downstairs and get some
No,
water?
no. We don't need to do that. And I have a cup. I can run out and get some.
That's all beer.
It's totally fine. Beer might work later. All right, so that's good. That's totally fine. I'm ready to go. No, I just had. I'm
Last
good.
time I was here last week, he didn't have any water.
That's
I can
fine.
run downstairs in a second and get you a can of seltzer.
No, here we go.
All right.
All right.
All right, you ready?
Everything's going. You're live.
We're recording.
Go
All right.
ahead. Yeah, just make sure that you're all.
Am I
here.
close?
So Mark will do the standard intro. I'm Brian Donahue. I'm Mark.
Yeah, right.
Are we good with sound and so forth? Do I lean
Yeah,
in?
sound is fine.
Okay.
Everything's great with sound.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. How you doing, everybody? Welcome to the Jersey Angle Podcast. I'm Brian Donahue.
And I'm Mark Bonamo.
This is going to be, we've had a lot of good episodes. This is going to be the best episode of this
Absolutely.
podcast so far. Because
Absolutely.
we have with us, whose voice you just heard, the great Robert Sullivan.
Hi,
doing, Bob?
I'm Robert Sullivan. Hi, I'm good. Is this going to be the best episode ever?
This is gonna be.
Absolutely.
Because I had heard that the best. Well, I heard that was going to be a subsequent episode. But okay, I'm
Yes.
ready to. I'm
So
ready to work
for
with
those of
that.
you who don't know, Robert Sullivan, I'll do a little formal intro. You've written for many magazines, Vogue, The New Yorker, the author of a long list of books,
Just a list.
including
Can't-
Rats, in which you hang out studying rats in a New York City alley for a year. With
Right. That's right. Secretly, that book is about humans, but don't tell anyone.
Meadowlands, in which you canoe through the Meadowlands, and that's just the quintessential book on the Meadowlands, in
Yes.
my
I'll take
opinion.
your word for it.
A whole bunch of the books, and most recently, Double Exposure, in which you retrace the steps of an 18th century photographer through the American West.
That's correct.
But the reason you're here is this book that you have in your hands now, My American Revolution, and this is a book that in which you traverse the path of the American Revolution and the events in New York, New Jersey, and it's America's 250.
It's America's semi-sesqui. Oh, I forgot
Semi-
to practice saying it. before it came on.
semiquincentennial.
Semi-quincentennial or semi-sesquicentennial?
So the reason
It's something.
Yeah, I'm bad with numbers.
the reason your book came to mind was I was looking at all the things that New Jersey has planned for America 250. I was actually at the Red Bank council meeting, and the county clerk was there unveiling all the things that Monmouth County had.
Yeah.
And one of them was like a Winnebago that's going to go from place to place. And I just sort of said, oh no, is New Jersey doing this again? Are we going to blow this chance to tell our great
I'm
history?
excited about a Winnebago going place to place.
Talking about America. But anyway,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to slag on Monmouth County. I then went and saw the state is doing a lot of great things for America 250. But nothing as cool as the stuff that you did in your book or as meaningful.
Right. Meaningful, cool. Thank you. I have this idea that, well, of course, anniversaries. We know this thing about journalism that weirdly anniversaries makes everybody light up in journalism. Now, of course, journalism is in doubt as an enterprise or is under attack. Some people say, but it's always been under attack. Oh my gosh. But in fact, I remember one of the great things about Monmouth County is that an early American journalist lived here. Also, a guy who was considered to be America's first poet and perhaps one of his worst poets. So that's very exciting.
And that's in your book where you go to the place where he died, stumbling home from a pub in a cornfield.
In a blizzard.
And you to replicate this experience, you walked in circles in a freehold cornfield almost until you dropped.
I'm remembering that now. I wouldn't have put it that way. But
That's how I remember
that is
it.
the accurate
I think I
way
read
to
the
put
book
it.
10 years
That
ago.
is the way that a person who read that would put that, and that's That's good and that's important, and I'm happy you said that.
What was his name? What was his name?
Philip Freneau.
The poet of the Revolution.
Poet
Right.
of the Revolution, yeah.
Right.
Trying to look at both of you, make sure I make eye contact with everyone here. But for the people watching on YouTube or listening at home, note that my eyes are going back and forth between the two incredible hosts. But the thing is, yeah, it's a big country. It's a big idea of a country. It's a country that's allegedly about an idea. The idea of country in itself is a huge idea. And how did a kind of nation state decide it was a nation state in 1776? We didn't even use those terms, I don't think, but we did talk about country, and I was really fascinated with what that word meant. And yeah, as a kid, I grew up. I grew up all around New York and New Jersey, and one of the focal points in my life as a young person was the harbor, for many different reasons. One is that my father was a printer down in the harbor. The harbor being a port, like a portal on your computer, but this port brought in information from around the world and stuff from around the world and people from around the world and ideas from around the world. The port did. So the port was a centerpiece, but also very much the birthday spot in 1976, which was when I was, about to buy or had just bought my first rock and roll live album, concert album, which would be either Wings Over America or Peter Frampton Comes Alive. but it's a big thing, and there's a lot of ideas to tack on to it. And I think as I'm thinking about this on the drive here today from Broad Street, crossing Broad Street in Philadelphia, coming up here to Broad Street in Red Bank, I'm thinking about how does one person negotiate time and history and all these big ideas. And I kind of ran into somebody who was a reenactor, sort of the French-Indian War, which is one term for that war. And I realized, I didn't need to buy the outfits. I didn't need to get a drum and learn to play fife again. I think I might have played it once in high school. But rather, you could just think about, what you see and where you stand and then take off from there. So yeah, I want all of America to be out walking around and sketching and kind of trying to draw the skyline and watching the tides. It's really these anniversaries are kind of a little bit of a ruse or a joke or whatever. What does it matter? But on the other hand, it's really fun to have an excuse to play around.
It's interesting when you talk about reenactments because everyone thinks a lot about the Civil War reenactments, the blue and the gray. And Virginia, they have these guys out there in costume. But what Virginia is to the American Civil War, New Jersey is the American Revolutionary War.
Yes.
And it's like people don't even realize or they've forgotten.
No. And there's a great line that Lincoln has. I think he walks up to the promenade, what is now the promenade in Brooklyn Heights, and he looks out over the harbor and he says, if people only knew, and I'm misquoting Lincoln, and I've done this before, and his attorneys are still active in Illinois, but he says, if people only knew that this vista was where it all happened. And that's a really interesting thing. New York, New Jersey, almost especially New Jersey, but also Westchester, there's so much struggle. There's so much muddy, gray, whose side are you on struggle and guerrilla warfare. And I actually thought the Ken Burns documentary, that's something that it got right about the Civil War.
It did. It did a really good job on the New Jersey.
He did.
What life was like here and how
what
horrible.
life was like and how horrible it is. The violence. He really got the violence down. Where I thought that Ken Burns got it wrong, and I'm ready to say that. Is that okay?
That is.
Okay.
Or is this a
Calling out Ken Burns.
Go ahead.
Here we go.
It's going to be.
Go ahead.
Is that invariably people come down to the one guy who we couldn't have done this without. In this case, or in that case, or in the documentary's case, George Washington, and that kind of helps us forget that Washington was very much a man of his times. He was doing things the way people did things then. People talk about how he walked away from leadership. After the war, but he's all but following a script from kind of Greek and Latin texts. A a lot of the famous lines in the Revolution, "Give me liberty, give me death," or just many famous quotes come from old texts. People are reenacting what it's like to create a kind of like Greek ideal of a city-state, of a new nation. So like George Washington, to put it bluntly, is not the only guy who could have pulled this off, would be my thing. I think one of the things that's really beautiful about, I think he was an amazing guy. He did great stuff, George Washington. And he was, it's incredible to watch him dance everywhere, go to all these plays, incredible dancer. To see him get super angry, especially in Monmouth, where he flips out at the Battle of Monmouth and starts yelling at people. He would always do that in the middle of battle. He starts yelling at people and nearly getting killed on frequent occasion. But really, what's really amazing to see in the Revolution, as you trace back through stuff, as you walk paths and trails, and is how groups of people did things, and how communities did things, and how communities struggled to do things. The evacuation of the harbor being the most beautiful example of that.
Which, and for people who haven't read your book, the evacuation of the harbor is one of the things that you do. You get on the the evacuation of Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
After the Battle of Brooklyn,
Yeah.
when they went from Brooklyn to Manhattan, and Washington kind of just narrowly escapes.
Right.
So you hire a boat to take you along that route. But so back to the New Jersey, this being a lost thing in New Jersey, there's a lot of reasons for that. I think New Jersey has just done a terrible job of promoting its history over the years.
Indeed.
And a lot of it is just in New York and New Jersey, things are just knocked down and developed. There's such more so than New England. There's more of a preservation, old New England mindset in that. But that's one of the things that you do in the book, which is you get down in the landscape and you hike from Princeton, after the Battle of Princeton, Washington, retracing to Morristown, the 30-mile hike with your backpack.
Sure.
And when you get down on the ground and you look, you were able to tease out all those stories from the ground level and slowing down a little bit and then bringing it back. But we sitting in behind the wheels of our cars, we just forget all that. The landscape it's hard to imagine it happening on the landscape the way what we've done to it.
I think one of the big points in the end for me after doing years of this, and it really sprung from, when I was a kid, my dad would say, those hills over there, I think George Washington had something to do with that. Maybe he saw a plaque or whatever. I do remember down the seaport there were a bunch of plaques that he would take me to, and just like, speaking as a boring dad, we all know it's our great power. We recollect the most boring historic details, and we need to share them with our children, with really anybody who will talk to us about it. But there's so much. Real estate pressure, of course, that just is sicked on anything historic or old. America has this idea, the U.S. has this idea that newness is everything, that progress is a line forward. These are, in the history of civilization, but also of the human organism and of other organisms. This does not appear to be the case. I think New Jersey. I think it's bad everywhere. I think history is mowed down. There's like a violence against the past, even in Massachusetts. But they certainly have figured out how to. The revolution. If there's a war to be had right now, and I hope there isn't. I hope there's no wars. But I can definitely see like an antagonism between New Jersey and New England. Who's like, yeah, hey, it all happened here. The whole entire thing happened here. You started off a couple of things. But why do you guys make the money on it? Why don't we make the money? There's that battle. But also, I think you can see things when you drive. When I drive from Philadelphia back up the Jersey Turnpike, there's this moment when you're crossing into the Raritan watershed. You can feel it and see it. But I feel like I'm hypersensitive to these things. I will say that I ran into a Lewis and Clark reenactment team. Did I already tell you this? And I ran into them two or three books ago. and I was with the family, and I was pushing them through a reenactment well, we were driving the Lewis and Clark Trail. Yes, that's how bad it is, or how bad it was for my kids. But we ran. I managed to interview the people who are the official reenactors of the Lewis and Clark expedition, and the guy who was doing, if I have this right, Clark, he was very much the kind of dress code guy, kind of like George Washington, very into what he was wearing, into reenacting it exactly and perfectly. I believe, and you could read a book I wrote called Cross Country to get a more accurate portrayal of this event, but I believe that he had some lineage, like he was somehow related to Clark. The guy who was doing Lewis took his note from French Indian War reenactors who weren't so into what they were wearing. They were more like the extreme games version of reenactors. Yeah. They were like, that's the swamp, boys, that they went through on the way to Quebec, or in Western PA. We're gonna do that. And I got Tivas and a backpack and la la la, and that kind of divide among reenactors, a reenactment, got me to this idea of reemplacement. So in a way, it becomes more simple. So, yeah, we did hire a boat. Though if I can correct you, Brian, and I'm afraid to do that because you're so close to me, and I'm pretty much outnumbered by the host.
It was a kayak.
No, you're right in so many ways, and I don't want to dissuade you or anybody from going back to the book. No, we had a couple of different boat situations. One was we were looking at the evacuation of the American Army, such as it was in 1776, when the whole entire British fleet landed in Staten Island.
Correct.
Incredible.
Was it 30,000 British troops land on Staten Island?
Yeah, and there's this idea that the lumber that they used to build the masts had come from Maine, had come from the colonies. And colonists in New York City said, oh, look, there's like a forest of masts off the coast of Staten Island in the Narrows. And I love the idea that it was an American forest in a way, like the wood was repatriated.
And by the way, I must say, for the record, I'm a Staten Island native, and I've always heard that on Staten Island, the trees are only about 250 years old because the British troops chopped them all down, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure the Americans had a hand in it too.
Yeah.
Or the people who decided they were American, because that's all really not as accurate as we would think or want to think or need to think sometimes. But yeah, there's that amazing idea of deforestation when Washington brings the troops back into New York to take New York from the British, where the British have headquartered throughout the army. But the boat thing is so I was with some friends who were basically boating activists in New York City who had on the kind of spur of their kind of first boating activist, really, a guy who was an archaeologist, if I remember correctly, who lived in Istanbul and had seen that there were all kinds of boats in the water there. Why isn't that the case in New York City? And so in the late 70s, 80s, he started community boat groups going. He was one of the people who helped community activists build community boat groups again in New York City, where the water was clean again. I mean, my father remembered them closing in the 30s, in the 1930s, when way before something called the Clean Water Act, which just to put in a plug for people being in control of their destinies, was a law that said that was written and voted for by human beings who said, we would like to have the water clean. Can we do that as a group? And we did that. Okay, so there was the reenactment thing that I jumped in with this crew of people who it turned out had been reenacting the evacuation of Brooklyn for so long, and I never knew it because my eye had not been looking at the harbor, not been looking at the water, had not been looking at boat groups, looking at access to the water. So like your strategy, to use military term possibly, your strategy of how you see and perceive the landscape, how you see and perceive the water changes when you come to it with this different idea. How do I cross that? That could be exactly a military impulse, a hurting, fighting impulse. It could, go get them impulse. It could be a defensive impulse. It could be an impulse that is part of me wanting to drink water for the rest of my life and keep it clean. Or, it could be about farming. That's what's so interesting about war and farming, war and living in a place. Like, the strategy to defend yourself might be the same, just without, an enemy agitator.
But it was funny, even driving around New Jersey, yesterday.
And
live
I
in
realized I
North
didn't get
Jersey.
to the second boat thing, so go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
no worries.
Yeah.
So, even on land, okay, so the American Army, they're defeated in Brooklyn at Battle of Long Island. He narrowly escapes to Manhattan, gets to northern Manhattan, gets to Fort Lee, and he starts walking through New Jersey. Now, the other day, I'm in Wallington, New Jersey.
Sure.
Now, I love Wallington, New Jersey.
Minding your own business. Yeah.
Right? Because it's very Polish.
Yes.
We always
town.
buy pierogies when you're in Wallington.
Exactly. And my wonderful maternal grandmother, Franciszka Karolina Wisniewska, right? We love Wallington. I'm there, and I'm looking at these signs.
Retreat to victory.
Thank you.
Yes.
The retreat. The retreat route.
to victory.
Exactly. And I'm like, wow.
The
Past the
sign
pierogi
says
house.
retreat to victory?
It does, and it's
Yes.
so
Oh, that's
beautiful.
great.
It's
That's the whole Revolutionary War strategy.
It's
Correct.
the whole
Three
Revolutionary
words.
War strategy, and I don't know if you're reading the papers. So I guess nobody reads the papers. I get a Sunday paper still, but I don't know if you're perusing the news these days. But like, retreat to victory. Wow, what an amazing thing! A defensive strategy.
Right.
Wow, used against colonial powers throughout time. Wow. But
Yeah,
also,
resonates.
But also, I don't know if you've grown up as just to pick out a particular kind of type of human species. I don't know if you've grown up as like a person or even a guy and like lived life and realized like, oh, maybe I should retreat on some of these ideas. Maybe like not everything I'm saying is genius and I should ford the
Right.
mountaintop first.
Right.
Maybe I should watch and see what
Right.
people are saying.
Maybe
Or
losing
I-
is winning sometimes.
Yeah, and maybe
So
I've
where is
hurt
that
some
sign?
people.
Where that? I want that
It's
sign
right
over my.
everywhere,
I want
man.
that sign
You're-
over my front
it's
door
right
of my
in the middle of
house.
downtown, and you're
Retreat
you're
to
heading the
victory.
bridge over the Passaic River, because again, the Passaic River is critical in this whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And then you follow the retreat route. It goes down the Passaic River, and again, like down Route 21 now. I live in Newark.
I say Passaic, but you say whatever you want.
Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah.
So you're going down, and then I live in very close to downtown Newark, and then there's Military Park, where the retreat route goes down Broad Street. And apocryphally, what I've heard is that there's Thomas Paine, right? He's in Washington's army, right? Right in the pamphlet, The Crisis. These are times that try men's soul. There's no time for summer soldiers or sunshine patriots. He writes it on a drumhead in Newark when they're running away, right? It was
Thereabouts.
terrible. They're down to nobody. It's almost over, right?
I'm trying to remember. Is it? It goes. They stop in Passaic. There's a memorial in Passaic too.
Right.
After Wallingford, they cross the bridge into Passaic, and there's a monument right there across from a car repair place these days. Used to be near the Capitol Theater. Did anybody ever go to the
With the Clash played,
You
absolutely.
can watch all the old
I had to take a seat of Beastie Boys and
videos.
I got mono
And so
at the Capitol. Theater. Still regret.
it serves you right. No, I'm just saying that because I'm on a podcast. I'm saying that. But anyway, and we have a Tom Paine. I have a Tom Paine quilt here. Just
We will unfurl that.
yeah. But Retreat to Victory. I had read about it and seen parts of it, but I had not walked the whole walk to the bridge in Passaic until after I wrote this book, and I did it with the great Sean Sullivan, who
Oh yeah, NJ.com.
Yeah, sure,
the,
sure.
The other great Sullivan.
that would be one
He's
of the
great.
two
Great reporter.
greatest, I believe, greatest Sullivan writers in the state of New Jersey at the
He's
moment.
This, everything you're talking about though, if we lived in New England, wouldn't like school kids know this stuff?
Right.
I remember standing outside. The Christie administration had come literally in the dark of night, Department of Transportation,
I think they stayed in the dark night the whole time.
to knock down the Hubble House. I think it was a house down in Gloucester County. A historic Revolutionary War military leader had owned the house. He had mortgaged the house to support his militia.
What did they put up in the middle?
Preservation just wanted to save it. An interchange for that whole big,
Okay.
130, 290. I know
Okay,
all
yeah.
those highways down there outside. And I remember standing next to a reporter from New England. She could not.
Wait, what was she doing?
She
there?
couldn't.
She lost?
She was working for a New Jersey news outlet.
Okay, yeah.
We're watching the bulldozers take this thing down.
And she couldn't believe it.
She couldn't believe it. She's like,
Yeah,
in New
right.
England, there's no way they tear this thing down.
Yeah. Right.
But all this stuff you're talking about, like, don't you think kids who grew up along the retreat to victory would know that?
No
I
idea.
live on this street.
None.
Because they teach it in the school, and now there's been, I don't know, there's just
Nope.
It's all paved over and lost and not So maybe this is the chance. 250 to.
I think that one of the things that well, I'm remembering now. Still want to get the second boat, and
Oh, the second boat ride.
I want to get the second boat ride. And now that you've mentioned the bridge in Passaic and how important that is, and because I want to bring the quilt on, I want to so maybe one of us could remember this name, Robert Smithson, and if you want, Nancy Holt at the same time, we can. But kids remembering, there's a plaque. I love plaques. Okay, and that's the thing about kids. We think now there seems to be some comeback now, but we thought that we didn't want to bore kids. We thought that we didn't want to bore kids, and B, that they needed more stimulation. They couldn't just have a plaque. We couldn't just read them or tell them something. We had to have 3D immersion glasses. Like they couldn't know it unless it had a tech aspect, right? And just to check, it's not a parenting podcast, right? No, I shouldn't.
No.
Okay, but I'm going to rant for 2 seconds. But and it turned out that might some people have started to think maybe that's not exactly right. Maybe actually plaques are good. Maybe like standing outside and looking at something is good. Maybe like maybe we take the phones away a little bit in school. I've heard there's some people talking about this. And maybe we read. Maybe we try to do it without the computer for just a second. So I love plaques, as noted. And there's a really terrific plaque on the building that stands at the intersection of Atlantic and Court Street in Brooklyn, New York, which is a borough that, since I moved there, like I guess almost 10 years ago, and I guess my father grew up there, but like, talk about change. Talk about criminal change. Like there's, I'm looking at pictures of Dubai and thinking it's downtown Brooklyn. With skyscrapers that aren't made for humans. So that was another rant. So, but the plaque is quite beautiful, and it was put up there by a bank, by a Brooklyn community bank in the 1920s to commemorate one of the commemorations. We're doing this the 250th now. If you look back through the recollection and the remembrances of the revolution, people have ceremonies on the anniversary of 1776. They have ceremonies on the anniversary of George Washington's birthday. Everybody brings out all the stuff at all these different moments. And so they brought out the stuff. I think it was a Washington thing. I'm not really sure. But the plaque marks where George Washington looked back at the British coming over the Gowanus Canal and the Maryland's fighting him off. Mm-hmm. And supposedly he said, "Oh my God, thank God for the Marylanders," or something to that effect. And then subsequently they're going to evacuate from Brooklyn. But that plaque's standing there, and the plaque recognizes the bank that was there and is now a Trader Joe's, which I was forced to go into once, but I won't ever go in there. Again, it used to be my bank, my local community bank, until it was bought up by a giant conglomerate. But the bank there built, it turned out, a whole lot of housing in the neighborhood for people. The bank had this idea in the 20s that if we built for our customers houses, they would give us their money, and we could have their money, and they could have houses, and we could do it kind of like that.
So at the point where this plaque is,
it has a picture of George Washington saying, "Look, we're safe, we're going to make it." It recognizes this moment.
Right, and here's this plaque next to a Trader Joe where the American Revolution is almost snuffed out.
Incredibly, they kept the plaque up, I think, last I checked, at the Trader Joe's. But the plaque's there, and oh my God, what was my point with this? My point with this was that I remember I went back and looked at the newspapers when they unfurled the plaque, when they what do we say when they took the
unveiled.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So when they unveiled the plaque, at that time a military commander was there, a naval commander was there, and said that he felt that we had lost our way, that we didn't know how to defend our harbor from attack if it was attacked from outside forces or whatever. And I took that to mean, since I had been standing here looking at tides and trying to figure out tide charts and see how the evacuation of the harbor went, and was it just one guy and one line of people? What was it? And I subsequently realized it was like a community thing. Sorry to sound, stupid. But what I took that to mean was like, what does that mean, an enemy? Well, at that point, people were still talking about climate change as something that we had to deal with. This was, again, that was probably about 15 years ago. When did I write this book? But now it's a thing we fight about, climate change. But at that point, tides were noted as rising. We thought about how we defend ourselves just from the elements and how we work with the landscape to live. And I think that's the important point that like if I'm taking kids around, which I've done, I've some like people who do homeschooling have asked me to take their groups of people around. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like be active in strategizing about how you live in a place, and that's where this comes out. So this could be a really boring, fight against New England where we say our place is more important than your place because we did this more important thing than your thing.
Feels
was
like that
less
sometimes.
important.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Or we can say, why were they in New England? Why was there more fighting up there? Or is it because their land was harder to farm and they had a more fragile farming economy because of the rocks and the geology of the place? Is it because and was New England memorialized more in the 1800s, their role in the Revolution, because Governor Clinton had just finished building the canal, which is the famous canal across New York State, the Erie Canal, which was like this incredible tech moment that meant that all of Western Mass cleared out and went out to Ohio and out to Western New York to farm. So was it because their towns were depopulating in economic crises in New England that they grabbed onto this thing and made it their, James Joyce used to talk about how the Romans it's disgusting how they have all these historic sites in Rome. It's like selling your grandmother's bones. And so what was that? Why that happened? So all of these things are moments to say something happened here, and what if we think about it from like the old retreat to victory. How do we retreat to victory?
Well, a major retreat to victory is the role of the Watchung Mountains, right? Now, they're a pain in the ass, right? You're driving 280, you got to go up the hill going westbound. What a drag. But it's those mountains that saved George Washington in the Army, no?
Absolutely. At $4.50 a gallon, it's tough to go. Tough to go 280. Those mountains are really, really interesting. The Watchung are all part of the Appalachian. There's sub-range of the Appalachian.
Right.
All these mountains, the highlands, are all sub-range of the Appalachians, and the highlands are basically like a Brita filter for the water that we drink in all these cities and towns.
Right.
We were just talking about Bayonne getting its water supply, and the Jersey City water supply comes from up in Butler, from those reservoirs up around there. That's because we cared about those mountains. New Jersey should be celebrated every single day for its pioneering regional landscape vision. Plan 2018 or something in Morris County. That was an incredible way to think about how we keep farmscapes, we keep places open, and always the Highlands Commission has made that area safe until Governor Christie's administration came in the middle of the night. Is that how we phrase it? I think it should be always. Came in the middle of the night and pushed to have people, if I remember correctly, pushed to have interest on the board of the Highland Protection Agency. So that we would maybe think more about
big
development.
McGreevy accomplishment, I have to say.
Yes.
The Highlands.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
And so,
and it's how we drink water. It's how we stay alive. That's the retreat to victory, is to make sure that we don't. Now they're talking about doing an AI smart node that will suck up all the waters of the Highlands.
So the Watchung Ridge, right? That's in your book is a huge part of it.
Huge.
One of the things you do is you try to recreate the signal system that Washington used. He had a bunch of signal flares all along the Watchung Ridge, signal like bonfires basically that they would light. And they used it at the Battle of Springfield effectively. They lit the fires because the British were coming from Staten Island.
Yeah, so we think about the Watchungs as kind of like semicircle of mountains around the city, around New York City where the British were headquartered. That's protective. The elevations behind it are higher. The Great Swamp is an old, lake bed, historic glacial lake bed, and so that's a place you can be, and you can see the British moving down below the Watchungs.
When you're standing up there now, and you look out towards Staten Island, like if you go up the Washington Rock, I think it's called. Look out. You could really imagine how if it was all farms and all nothing built, like this column of guys in red uniforms. It must have been so obvious. Like,
Yeah,
they're
I mean,
not
even in
standing up.
gray uniforms, it's such an incredible view. And yeah, I often go up there and is it Eagle Rock?
Eagle Rock.
Eagle
Right?
Rock.
Was it the
Park.
High Lawn Pavilion or something like that?
Yep. And there are points all along there that look back at the city. And there's a great Ola Bell song. Ola Bell is I can't remember her last name. Ola Bell Reed, I think, a banjo player who was from the South, from the Southern Appalachians, moved to the Middle Appalachians in Pennsylvania, Maryland, Pennsylvania area, and was a real champion of old time music. And she has a song like "High on the Mountains, Looking Out." There's an idea that you look into yourself too when you look out into this kind of these amazing points that look out on the city, and that's this double. That's this double. What do you see when you look out? I think the book starts with a quote from something.
But you signaled to your daughter in her middle school music classroom in Brooklyn from the Watchung Ridge with a Boy Scout mirror.
I'm trying to be. I'm always thinking.
An idea
in those days.
I blatantly stole that idea
Thank
from
you for stealing it.
for a News 12-minute segment.
That's why you do.
Stole it. Didn't credit you.
That's why you do stupid ideas.
Steal from the
You
best,
hope
man. It's okay.
You hope that somebody will steal it and maybe do it better. But anyway, I thought like, how can I redo the signal fire? So I started looking into big time electric lamps that you could rent and maybe like plug into a car or something, and that always in my reenactment or reemplacement work, as I call it.
Reemplacement.
I'm trying to think like, how do I do something cool? Maybe make it fun. And in a way, kind of like slap you into maybe thinking about something. Because the trick is that humor, I saw none other than Bjork saying this the other day. A joke makes you step outside yourself and you can kind of see something. You can see how stupid you were being when you were serious or what a genius you are. So maybe rarely, I've never to date have not pulled that off myself personally. But anyway, and there's also, one time I had to go to Bangkok for a story, and at the threshold of the temples, there's a step that you kind of trip over. So you have to be aware as you're leaving one world and entering into another kind of place or thinking. So yeah, trying to figure out how can I do the signal fires, and I'm afraid of fire. Our garage burned down as kids. That's kind of a problem.
What town were you living in?
That was in Belrose Village, which is next to Belmont Racetrack over there in Queens-Nassau border. Anyway, we moved to New Jersey in high school, moved up to Morristown where I knew the hills there.
Right.
But anyway, and I was trying to use a mirror. I was thinking about using a mirror, but afraid I was going to get in trouble with the FAA because I didn't want to get in trouble with the FAA, or I didn't want to get in trouble with anyone. And so then... but I settled on mirrors, but I needed somebody to be back in the city, and I needed to be up on a high point, one of the high points in that kind of like ring of rocks around New York City. And yes, I convinced my daughter, who was early in high school, I think. And if you want to embarrass your daughter, you should definitely reenact the revolution and have her go up to the music room on the 8th floor in Brooklyn. And just say, I have to go out there. My dad's trying to signal back from New Jersey. And by the way, it had failed so many times. I tried with my landlord on our building in Brooklyn. I got him to go up there. Very nice guy. And just very interesting guy. He's traveled the world, and so he was game. And he also has a folding kayak. So you can ask anybody with a folding kayak to do anything. But anyway, that's a rule. So this was it. I finally got it to happen. One of the things that I learned in looking at that and thinking about how boats signaled in the water, and one of the things I learned is that the Atlantic Highlands was a place where, information was so desired from London for the stock trades that you would signal off the ship to the Highlands, to a spot on Mount Mitchell, and they would bounce that information into Wall Street. So like information speed, it's so interesting that the port and the portal are related in that sense, the modern portal. But the other thing I learned is that like when a ship, because of the curvature of the Earth, when you see a ship, the prismatic elements of the atmosphere and such, you can see a ship when it's over the horizon sometimes. You can see it after it's gone, which I think is a super beautiful thing just to think about in terms of how we're going to remember each other, how we remember things we did. But there was somebody who reenacted the fires.
Right.
A while back. There have been a couple attempts, and people have done it.
There was. Along the Watchung Ridge, there at different points, there were people who put like those big, car dealership opening lights up there, big
things.
lights up.
Yeah. And a guy who did
2008,
TV lighting,
2009.
he did it. He sounds really interesting.
When I did it, I got the Millburn Fire Department to loan me their smoke
It's a
machine.
great idea. No, I thought they set a fire in a barbecue.
I called them to ask if I could set a fire up there with a barbecue, and they said, no, we'll bring our smoke machine. It was cool.
Yeah.
But it has been, so here's like a story from,
Always ask, really. That's what we're saying here.
here's a story from the Star Ledger in 1983. So at different points, they have set these blazes up on top of the, now see, this is what I'm talking about would be a cool thing for them to do.
You're not afraid of fire, is that right?
No, but
Okay.
it was a massive, so Washington had these massive, like 20-foot high
Yeah.
pyres
Yeah,
that
we
would
could've
be
brought
built.
that quilt.
But anyway, so in the course of getting ready for this, I look at the Mr. Local History Project,
Mm-hmm.
mrlocalhistory.org. This is a great site. This is a guy in Somerset County, I believe, who
Mm-hmm.
does a lot of history work. And he just did there's no date on this post, so I don't know when he posted it, but he said, NJ250 idea, build a Rev War signal beacon, then burn it.
Yeah. Burn it
And
down.
he's saying we need to do this.
Torch it.
Yeah, and they built a kind of Jenga
And he's
tower
right, and
of
he's
wood.
right, a big Jenga. That's what it looks like. And he's saying that this is what they should be doing for the 250. I mean, how? He's right. How cool would that be if there were? How many were there? 13. I know there were a dozen of these.
A bunch.
If you had just huge fires,
Right.
I don't know.
But people get all fired up because the World Cup's coming. But you tell them this is happening, which actually relates directly to your life. This is an independent America, and no one cares.
Nobody. I mean, like, it's hard. I believe that I have one of my only qualifications is that I'm kind of into this. Okay? So
Yeah.
that's about it.
Oh yeah.
But like, I can easily see why somebody would want to go to the World Cup over going.
Maybe.
Well,
over
this says in
not with
19
me,
this says
well.
me to watch the tides.
This says in
Well, Italy's not in the
1980
World Cup, so I frankly don't care
It
much.
says in
but that's okay.
1980 to commemorate the Battle of Springfield Bicentennial, they made a 60-foot bonfire.
Yeah.
On Lord Stirling's beacon.
There's a cut right there.
So it's been done
There's a
before.
cut in the Watchdogs in Springfield, which is
Right.
leads the Connecticut Valley. Is that right?
Hobart Gap.
Hobart Gap. Yeah.
The Hobart Gap, right.
There's a couple of gaps. Gaps are cool. Gaps are where stuff.
They
doesn't
ran Route 78 through the Hobart.
Right, and the Hobart Gap was this critical choke point in the Revolutionary War.
That's what British were trying to get through to get to at the Battle of Springfield. They were trying to
Right.
get through to Washington
And
behind.
get through to Washington and wipe
behind
them
the
out, but
Watchung
nope.
Ridge.
So maybe I'm coming up. I think this might be a big point I'm coming up to. I'm right here. So maybe New Jersey doesn't get an A in class when we go to class with New England and Virginia, and they're all in the front of the class, and the teacher really likes them and gives them an A on how they reenact and remember the American Revolution and how they've done it and their state codes and how they don't. Maybe New Jersey gets like a bad grade, and the teacher doesn't really get New Jersey. Like I have a problem just in general with grades because I'm always like, well, also because in my writing, the one writing class I took in high school with Tommy Hoffman in the class, he kept getting really good grades on his very cool short stories. And I got really bad grades. And then one time he thought that was wrong. And so he switched our names on the paper. And
Oh, good for Tommy Hoffman.
Sure enough,
Thanks, Tommy.
my story with his name
Shout out
got
to
a good
Tommy
grade.
Hoffman, wherever you are. Maybe he's listening.
You
Imagine
can just say
Tommy Hoffman
you can
is
just say
listening to this.
you can just say Hoffs and it'll work. But anyway, so maybe and that
Don't
was,
hassle the Hoffs.
so maybe that
Props to Hoffs.
maybe that's happening with New Jersey, and I wouldn't put it past the teacher in the and are you with me still on this, in the Revolutionary War classroom where in the high school for Revolutionary War where Virginia's in the class and New
Right.
England's in the class. Maybe New Jersey's getting that, but also maybe New Jersey is really good because you always have to ask like, well, this student is good at this and this student's good at that. They dress really nicely in Virginia for the Revolutionary War reenactment, in New Jersey not so much. But maybe we're just stuck that we have this, for me, like it's kind of like championing. You're always working up. We just had a surprise party. Boy, I can't stay on topic. We really just had a surprise party, and the surprise was it was so hard, and we thought we blew it. Our daughter, we thought there had been a breach, and there had been, and we had to fix it, and it all worked out. It was all great, but like in retrospect, we had a lot of fun working on the surprise and like communicating back and forth. We came up with code names, and you can't do anything without everybody knowing where you are in America today. So with the phones, and so So maybe New Jersey's just really good. And that's why I love no state has retreat to victory. Retreat to victory is the most incredible phrase. It's the most beautiful thing. And maybe we're really good. Like, maybe we should try not to, even though I'm all for, and Brian, I support you in your hope to set a giant fire where hopefully no one gets hurt and you don't have to worry about singeing your hair like me. But, and for the people who are not watching this on YouTube, that's because neither of us have any. But maybe we should be champions of that mundane. And yeah, that's kind of what we're saying.
Okay.
Why?
But wait a minute. There's a retreat to victory. But one of the things New Jersey actually gets right is when America goes on the offensive. There's the crossing of the Delaware, right? The great
Sure.
reenactment every year.
Yes.
There's the Battle of Trenton.
Yes.
You see urban warfare in the streets getting reenacted.
I guess you do.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I want to reenact urban warfare in the streets in Trenton. I just don't. That doesn't feel. I really want to fix the water supply in Trenton.
that's a good
because
idea.
They need water.
That's
in
a good
Trenton. They're having
idea.
no
Trenton is
problem.
one.
Right.
Trenton is another place where it's when you stand where the Battle of Trenton took place. I've gone there. They do the 10 Crucial Days, which they celebrate it every year in December.
Yeah, I'm in that.
Great bunch of events.
Amazing.
But when you're standing where it happened, it's so hard to imagine. It's just gone. It's
Yeah.
not like the Lexington and Concord where I'm standing on that village green.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I
But
can
this
imagine
is-
that happening here.
I feel like this is something like this is like National Young Person's Art Month
Right.
now. And Trenton, I think there's a Mercer County student who's representing, who won nationally to represent in some big exhibit somewhere. But I really was blown away. An art teacher just passed away who was at Trenton State, I think. He was older and had an Eastern European name. And he is really cool. Go look up the obituary, art teacher Trenton. And he taught so many students. He himself was a magnificent artist. And he was just an incredible teacher to young people. I guess what I'm saying is like the water.
Mel Leipzig?
Yes, we need the water. We need the water to be fixed in Trenton. The water
Absolutely.
system is having problems. Like that's what the celebration of an American Revolution should be, because the American Revolution starts as a kind of like Occupy Wall Street thing that, in my reading of this history, the kind of elites come in last. Washington doesn't want to go to war with the British. Right. He loves his British clothes.
Yep.
The biggest stress for him is not wearing British clothes. He has to figure out a way, and this is where Philadelphia ceramics come in big. I'm just reading about this for something I'm working on. But to buy Philadelphia ceramics becomes a national act of buying locally, in a sense.
But you talk about the water. There are people who walk among us in New Jersey who respect this history, including the water. A man I need to reference is Charles Stile. Charles Stile.
S-T-I-L-E.
Yes. He is the dean of the New Jersey Press Corps, great political writer for Bergen Records /NorthJersey.com, lives around Princeton, loves this history. And one time he says to me, "Hey, Mark, follow me. We're at the State House in Princeton, right? Mm-hmm. State House is right there in the Delaware River.
Assiniboine Creek.
Thank you." Mm-hmm. We drive over that
incredible.
creek, right? Mm-hmm. Going past a cornfield, past the Princeton battlefield. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he says, "Mark, let's keep going." Mm-hmm. Takes me downtown to Princeton, to the Nassau Inn. Mm-hmm. Points, right?
To the two trees.
To the two trees. Mm-hmm. And to the buildings in Princeton where there's still bullet holes in the walls.
Yeah.
Right? Like Easter 1916 in Dublin, there's still bullet holes at the General Post Office. We have the same thing for our own revolution here in America, in New Jersey.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Absolutely. And yeah, absolutely. And the crossing of the Delaware, we still read it as George Washington's amazing decision that he made to do that thing.
Right.
And I think there's a new movie coming out about the guy who was the meteorologist for D-Day. Well,
Yep.
there was a meteorologist in World War II around the time of D-Day, and he lived in Princeton. And he was an incredible meteorologist. And I wrote about this, I'm proud to say.
It's in your book.
Yeah,
It's in this book.
He
My
wrote
Revolution.
about the crossing of the Delaware from the perspective of a meteorologist, and to me, again, what was so amazing in that battle was not that one guy made a call to make this crossing in a time when the weather was X, Y, and Z, but that the group understood the weather. I'm going to say in large part because they had experience working in agriculture along these three estuaries. I think one of the great things about living in New York, New Jersey, and Philadelphia, which is all, just all along the same coastal plain fall line, but living in these three places, I've come to understand that, these are three giant estuaries. Mm-hmm. The next one, the backside of the Delaware estuary is the Chesapeake estuary. Right. This is why we're here, because there are these watery estuaries that are fed by the mountains behind them. Right. These people crossing knew the sky. I'm just going to say it. Knew the sky, and they knew. I love when the weather changes and they cross the creeks behind the British to get from Trenton up to Princeton, because they know this is one of those hard, fast freezes that's going to happen that night. I've seen that weather in my life several times.
It's a nor'easter. It's a December nor'easter, and then the northeast wind, and then the back end is shifts.
I love
around
to do it.
the
And on the drive here this morning from Philadelphia, where I take the wobble of, I still don't understand why I-95 happens with the numerology that it does in that area, but I understand that dump that I see when I'm outside of Trenton is kind of in the marshes of the Aspen Creek region, and I understand that dump was where this kind of fateful maneuver happened. And I saw this morning that the dump has green grass on it, meaning that it's a closed sanitary landfill. Right. And I realized that it could be that dump could be, that we could think about this place as a water place. Right. And not
so
as a place to develop.
They come across the Delaware in the middle of that storm, and,
Yes.
and that the nor'easter helps them with the sneak element of surprise and the sneak attack.
Right.
And then they know that the hard freeze is coming. It turns to rain, right? Snow to rain, the rain snow line, and then a hard freeze, and the roads get nice and hard and frozen, so they can get the hell out and get to Princeton. And they use the weather.
And that happens. And
classic New Jersey nor'easter.
And now I'm going to say something, and I live in Philadelphia, so this is going to, maybe I won't be allowed to go home, but I'm going to say that Valley Forge also gets more play, even though the record shows that the winner at Morristown,
front of the class, sitting in the front of the class.
Right.
There's Pennsylvania in the front of the class. We have Valley Forge.
Right.
Yeah, and they have that picture of George Washington praying, which, if you read his journals, he was more worried about his accountant than he was with anybody up in
Meanwhile,
heaven.
there was mutiny in Morristown, almost.
There was almost mutiny in Morristown, but also that coldest of cold winters freezes the water in the harbor, and all of the water in the harbor is frozen, and so suddenly Staten Island becomes the idea of strategy changes. So now you're not defended in New York Harbor by the water. Suddenly the water is away. People could sled over or
sure,
walk
and there's
over
raids going back and forth
and kill you.
Staten Island all the time.
So I want to talk about the second boat.
Go ahead.
Your second boat ride.
Go ahead.
The second boat theory is that, we did a boat to reenact the crossing, the evacuation of New York Harbor. And so I learned therein that weeks before, Washington, through the Gloucester unit, the guy running the Gloucester, basically fisherman, calls for all the small boats in New York Harbor to be brought up onto the one side. And so you have dozens and dozens of boats that will slowly ferry across to New York all of the troops. Or probably New Jersey or wherever, because it's slack tide. You might end up in Jersey City. You might end up, up in Queens, because the East River is so fast and furious there, and how it would happen. But it's a kind of like random thing. It's not as one straight line, and that mirrors beautifully after 9/11 the way that a call went out in the harbor. All boats should help people off Manhattan, and all people did. And I was chided when I talked about this, if I can rant one last time, when I talked about this way back, not too long after 9/11, and people wanted to say, no, it was it was just these officials who got people out. No, it was the community of boats that got people out. And I was heckled by two Wall Street guys who I'm just going to say appeared drunk anyway at an event, and I'm still shaking because no one defended me. But now there's a documentary by Tom Hanks that shows that in fact the small boat and ferry,
Everybody who had a boat that day.
Right.
everybody who did it that day in 9/11 times, it was a bigger. They say it rivaled.
Right. An American
Dunkirk.
Revolution in Dunkirk. Thank you.
So now we have that on the record. But the other boat, the boat that we in fact did hire, was to reenact George Washington's inauguration, where he got off in Boxwood Hall in Elizabeth. And Elizabeth is such a great place to walk to. All the rivers there. I understand they have one of those microforests there now.
Yes.
That's interesting. But like, I kind of don't like microforests in the sense that like, let's have macro forests.
Right.
But that's
and the
another-
Royal River
Right.
goes into the
that's
Arthur
another
Kill.
program.
Right.
So anyway, so we hired a boat. It turned out, and some people met us with the boat. They came from Brooklyn, and anyway, it turned out because of 9/11 and all the rules and this and that and the other thing, I wasn't allowed to get on the boat. So we had to figure out a way to get me on the boat.
This is the foot of Elizabeth Avenue. You're going to try to go
Gonna
to
try
to Wall Street.
It's illegal to get on a boat from there because this is the same thing. It's illegal actually to leave Brooklyn and enter Manhattan in a boat. George Washington couldn't pull it off. He needed a lot of permits to win the war, and it's true that's problematic. But part of the problem, in I'm getting back to the Brooklyn evacuation now, is that the Brooklyn Bridge Park is a public-private park. It's not a public park. And that's something that's a battle that we don't notice either that's happening all the time. We're public privatizing our public spaces. But back to the boat that we, hired. I pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for this guy to pick me up, and then he couldn't pick me up, but we finally got on the boat. He picked me up. And then he wanted to take us fishing because he thought we wanted to go fishing. I was trying to explain to him, no, we're just a bunch of fathers reenacting the founding fathers, going to the inauguration. We just need to go to Wall Street. I got a little frustrated. I was probably hangry. And but he asked if we wanted to fish. He hit the bottom of the harbor and hurt his propeller, not me. But we when we were over in Red Hook. But we all got back. Everybody was able to pick up their kids at school. We reenacted the boat ride from Elizabeth under the Gothels, which still has a plaque under it for that event. For that
Really?
inaugural
Wow.
event. And
On the
that
water
was,
side?
And that was a big
From the
inauguration.
water, there's a plaque?
Yup.
There's somewhere. I haven't
Andy
checked
Newman
this.
from the Times actually did
But
a
the-
story where
the
he
new-
sailed around
think
Staten
that's
Island. He
Gothels,
saw it.
yeah.
The new Gothels?
I
There's
think
new
the
Gothels,
I think the
right?
plaque. There's an old railroad trestle bridge there too, and the plaque could be there as well.
All right, maybe
That's
I
right.
can
I
go
feel
find
like
that plaque.
I feel like I've been reminded that some of the stuff I did was not
Yeah.
as stupid.
I'll go
as I
back
thought,
home and take a
because
look. Right.
Andy Newman has subsequently done stuff I've done that I've thought made me feel not so bad about it. Okay, so so that's helpful.
I'll tell Andy you said hi. Okay.
I don't know. I think I might have talked to him once. I can't remember.
He's
Anyway,
great.
so the,
He's fantastic. Right.
Yeah. And I want to say Robert Smithson is an artist who's from Passaic, Clifton, marries somebody from Clifton named Nancy Holt, another artist. Robert Smithson's baby doctor was William Carlos Williams.
There you go.
And Robert Smithson goes out west eventually to build something called the Spiral Jetty in the Great Salt Lake, which is a spiral.
Famous landscape sculpture, right? He's
Famous
a
landscape
sculptor.
sculptor, really interesting guy. Nancy Holt's really interesting. She did a really interesting project called Sky Mound, which is on a sanitary landfill in Kearney. She started that project with the state of New Jersey, but it got complicated by the fact that the Meadowlands,
It's covered in solar panels now.
economic. It is covered, so you know all about this. That's a really interesting project, but they're also big landscape thinkers. And so when I kind of reenacted getting lost in a swamp in the cold, like Philippe Freneau, America's first and worst poet. When I do that, I'm thinking. And he was on one of the prisoner ships in Brooklyn, where you got off if you had money or connection, but you didn't if you didn't. So if you want to see who was, the word hero I think is always problematic, but like the people who were on the prison ships were the least loved people in the revolution.
Right, and they're all buried in Fort Greene now, right?
All their
So many.
the bones that they found are in Fort Greene in a giant memorial, but they weren't put there for years and years and years. We memorialized George Washington in minutes after the revolution. But Smithson built that spiral jetty, and Smithson spent a lot of time thinking as an artist about spirals, and so that's kind of what I was doing with Fresno's spiral, like
You're
thinking about what
spiraling.
a spiral does. But if you've ever walked in like a Buddhist prayer circle, so there's something like very comic, getting back to Bjork and what a joke does. But at the same time, there are things that human beings do to think about things and think about places that work, and they do them over and over again, and they do them at key points like semiquincentennials. But they also do them. But they also do them at points that are not key at all, that are just like the morning when you get up and you're making coffee, and you just do that. You repeat something. It's like that's the idea of prayer and practice. You know. Yeah. Now we're in a time of heightened. What is this religion or this faith or whatever? The funny thing for me always there is like, oh, it's called a faith practice. You practice. You don't actually get it right or anything. But so that's the second boat. But I think what we really want to talk about, if I'm not mistaken,
We have to get to this sandwich.
It's the most important
So
thing. It's
just
the
to drop
reason
back,
I'm
we're using your book from 2010
Yes.
book as a guide to how New Jerseyans
Thank
might
you.
want to commemorate the 250th.
and my book also works as a kind of, it holds, if there's a wind in the room, it holds down the paper.
That's good.
So
So people might want to do the hike from Princeton to Morristown
Yes.
along the Watchung Ridge. They might
Yes.
want to go to the top of the Watchung Ridge with a mirror and recreate the signaling. They might want to take a boat from Elizabeth.
Yes.
Hire a crotchety boat guide, a captain to take you from Elizabeth. But then subsequently to the publication of the book,
Yes.
you and I have had conversations about another.
I might deny what you're going to say.
another
but go ahead.
idea.
Yeah. Yes,
which is
we have.
another theory that you have.
I'm announcing it here
Maybe it'd
today.
be the addendum when your book is republished. When this podcast thrusts your book to the top
Yes.
of the New York Times bestseller
Correct.
list,
Yes.
you can add an addendum to the book with this idea,
Yes.
which is that the New Jersey Sloppy Joe.
Yes. You're going to say it because I was waiting to there was only 30 seconds left in the show, and I would say it at
The New Jersey?
29, 30. I would say, my idea is, and that's about all time we have. So,
The New Jersey Sloppy Joe, and maybe I'm
Yes.
embellishing the idea, maybe I'm taking it farther than you had, but
I'm here
New
so that
Jersey
you
Sloppy
can
Joe
embellish.
should become
yes.
the official sandwich of America 250.
Yes. You see, this is why I'm not.
Because it is the most patriotic sandwich in the land.
Just keep going. Don't
Yes,
stop.
it is.
Like you're taking this much farther than I had ever dreamed.
You gave me the idea.
But now I'm ready. I'm following
And-
you.
and-
I'm
Live
like,
the dream.
So can you
Do
talk
it.
about how this...
I'm like a can on the back of your just married car. I'm like in the traffic. I'm running. So it's good to be here in where you've taken the idea. The way I see the idea is similar, but it's a much more boring way, but exciting too because now I'm so freaking hungry now that you brought up Sloppy Joes.
We're in Monmouth County. We can't get them.
Oh my God! Because and the reason you can't get them, and here's it's really more like I'm hungry. What am I gonna have from lunch? Oh, I'm gonna look to the Revolutionary War to guide me in my today's sandwich selection. That's all I'm talking about. And so the way that works is, I believe that where the troops were encamped, in the Morristown winter after this is. So to redo what you were doing before, there's the Battle of Brooklyn. We think we're going to win. Not a good idea. We're probably not going to win. Actually, we never thought we were going to win. We lose. We run out of New York. We try something in Westchester. We get back up to Fort Lee. We cross down. We walk through New Jersey. We write The Crisis by Thomas Paine, who's listening to people. People are listening to him. We get down to Jersey. Go to Pennsylvania, cross the Delaware when it's right. We start our way back up. And after we beat them in Princeton and Trenton, we don't keep going. We regroup in the mountains.
Right.
And we do that up in Morristown. And we spend the winter there. And that's amazing. So within that encampment area, so if you basically look from behind the Watchungs, Milburn, Maplewood, and then over through Chatham and Summit, and Madison, where I went to high school and grew up, after 1976, and then all the way back into Basking Ridge, and up to Florham Park. I used to get a good Sloppy Joe in Florham Park. This is basically the triangle. So Washington's winter encampment triangle, and how maybe you would send the troops out for a little foraging or to check on the British. My map includes that extent. That is the Sloppy Joe region. That is the heart of the Sloppy Joe
This is the
region.
map in front of us. We have this. This is a map you made, right? With all the
I made
all
that
the
map.
delis that sell sloppy joe.
Many of the delis that I could find. Now, a couple of the Sloppy Joes were like, "Oh, you think this is Sloppy Joe? I'll give it to you, but it's not the Sloppy Joe I want."
Overlay this map with events from the
We should make.
foraging.
I was
Right.
just think. I would assume we would make a tote bag. That what we would do.
Yeah, it is of cultural significance.
Yeah,
So
but
what-
wait,
right.
hold on.
So you-
hold on. Well, no, hold. I need to hold it. I think we
Okay,
should just.
okay.
Usually,
Keep
you're doing a very good job in explaining what I'm saying to other human beings because you have some sense of what I'm trying to say and I'm not saying it. But in this case, I want to say, just for people in New Jersey who don't know what the Sloppy Joe, who come from the not encampment, you don't think there's anyone in New Jersey who doesn't know?
That's remedial Jerseyana.
You'd think.
This is
Oh,
a
I see.
podcast.
This is-
This is the grad level New Jersey podcast.
Dog whistle.
If you don't know what a New Jersey sloppy Joe is,
Okay.
maybe you need to
But
go
just to review, in
watch
case-
some
in case
TikTok
someone-
video.
And that's fine.
In case
No,
someone
no,
from
let's talk-
Albuquerque is
no.
tuned in, I want to say we
Okay.
got 3 layers of rye bread. We got a layer of like a meat, turkey, ham, what have you, roast beef, and then we got within the layers we have coleslaw and Swiss cheese, typically, and Russian dressing. Now, the people who claim to have founded, discovered, invented the Sloppy Joe are at the Old Town Deli in East Orange.
Right.
There's a plaque for that there.
Right.
They put tongue on theirs, and that's fine. But many other places don't have tongue on theirs.
Right.
But I do know that they were at my they're at my friend Dave, who's a big part of this book, big part of the Meadowlands book. Dave, who lives in Brooklyn now, but we talk regularly, still high school friends. Dave had him at his father's funeral. I hope somebody brings Sloppy Joes to my funeral. It's the way to come in and go out. Really.
Yeah, no, I live in Newark, very close to the Old Town Deli in South Orange, and it's like a shrine.
I mean,
You know?
and that's a lot on a sandwich, I think.
Sure.
I like it where you just used to go to Chippies in Madison, like they have them all wrapped
He's on the
up.
Chippies is on the map.
Chippies.
You
They
have it on
have
the
them all
map.
wrapped up in the counter. You know, I used to go to all these places. You have them wrapped up. You just take it quick. You go. You get a seltzer. You go.
Whoa.
So, yeah, it's like,
I've gone to a place in Summit for sloppy joes.
Yeah.
So and again, people listening from outside the area, even just
first
across
of
the
all, what are
Raritan.
you doing? But open up. Sorry. Okay.
This is the map that you made.
I'm kidding. Not the map. I'm talking about what the people listening from other areas.
Who think a sloppy joe is a
Yeah,
bunch
who
of
knows
ground
what they're
beef
They
and
think it's a
tomato
bunch.
sauce on
Thank
it.
you.
Right.
Right.
So
Infidels.
But
They don't
even from-
understand.
No, it's a North Jersey thing. We once
Yeah.
at a Giants tailgate game. My cousin, a tailgate party. My cousin from Bordentown and
Yeah.
my sister, whose husband is from Bloomfield and brought the sloppy joes. They had an argument in the parking lot over
About-
what was the sloppy joe.
Oh
'cause
yeah, of course.
My cousin who grew up in North Brunswick and was living in Trenton and Bordentown.
Yes. No, they think it's meat.
No.
That's
it's meat on
so it's a
thing,
North Jersey
sauce,
thing.
Yes.
So it's a very specific. And I think your argument was that
if you're having a party or a funeral or something, kind of like fancy, then you put toothpicks in the slot.
yes, with the little plastic
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah, with
decorations.
plastic decorations. That's if you-
Fantastic.
that's if someone there is
But
dead.
I think now where we get to the geology.
Yeah.
The geology that protected George Washington during the Revolutionary
and
War
that
is the
made
same.
for a glacial lake.
The same ancient glacial lake that protected George Washington also kind of limits the sloppy Joe.
Yeah, I mean, thank God.
That's the same area.
That's a quality control.
That keeps the sloppy
Yes.
Joe, North Jersey sloppy Joe in that
Yes.
area, and thus the same geologic forces that saved this country
Yes.
have also created this.
Right, and if there's
sandwich.
American uniqueness,
And
here's
that
this
should
unique
be America's
moment.
sandwich.
I am
Right.
so hungry right now. I can't even talk.
Starving.
About it. I can't even.
And
yes,
and
yes.
that's it.
Well, yes, and I do want to do a shout out to the sandwich in Reading Terminal by this.
That's a different sandwich. We have to
Synonymous
stay on
deli.
to just
We're
we're starting a
I
movement here.
can't remember what we were talking about anymore.
We're
I can't
starting a
start
movement.
It's got the turkey.
The-
It's so
the
fresh.
North
and
Jersey
it's not
sloppy
a sloppy
Joe.
It's like if a sloppy Joe were healthy, but it's really good. And I go there. And I
What's the
always
point of
think,
that?
I should get a sloppy Joe too. Oh my God.
So
Is
it's the
anyone
4th
dead?
of July. This is the fantasy we've created.
Yes.
It's the 4th of July, and
Yes.
people are gathered in
Yes.
in Essex County, Union County, and there's
Yes.
huge fires burning
Yeah.
all on the Watchung Ridge.
Yeah, and people from
And everyone's
from
eating
Virginia
sloppy
and
joes.
Massachusetts are in tears,
Amazing.
are weeping because they don't have anything as good as this.
And
Everyone's
we're
eating
all
sloppy
eating
joes.
sloppy joes, saying huzzah, huzzah. And that's
Yeah, you say
that's
huzzah
it. That's
or
America.
Yep.
We've just
Yeah.
created the
Do you-
greatest America 250.
now
event.
you're making me go like full. So is this? What is our problem? Is like has Bruce has never referenced the revolution, right?
What?
Bruce has never referenced the revolution in any of his songs, right?
Well, lately he might be.
I know, maybe-
because of
maybe-
what's going
maybe-
on. But no, I think
Because
you're right.
The original title to the Meadowlands book that I wrote about the Meadowlands, which is titled The Meadowlands, was originally titled Somewhere in the Swamps of Jersey.
Oh,
because-
wow.
Oh,
But that didn't work out.
What happened?
But is that what we
Did you have
need?
to get a copyright of that?
No, it didn't sound as good. It didn't work. I like
I've
the
always
one
wanted
word.
to ask Springsteen if the machine that's stuck in the mud in the swamps of Jersey is he referencing the Meadowlands? This is if I run into
Right.
Springsteen
Yeah.
on the street. This is the first question I have.
Yeah, me too.
Are you referencing the Meadowlands or are you referencing a tidal? Because he's a freehold guy.
Yeah.
Is that a reference to like a pine barren
Yeah,
swamp?
I know.
Interesting.
Well, I've
Where's the machine?
I've
That's
heard
a
him
dud
talking
stuck?
about crossing like over, like going to New York to record stuff and come back. I've sort of think I've heard
Yeah.
like, but you got to cross the
Right,
swamps to do
sprung
that.
from cages on
And-
Highway 9 when he's on the way to New York.
Exactly.
Right.
And that I would ask questions like Philip Roth and Don DeLillo have similar questions about.
And my other question for him, when I read
Yes.
him, is how could he refer to the district attorney's office in Atlantic City? Because New Jersey doesn't have a district attorney.
It's a great.
county
It's
prosecutor.
one of those questions that no, I wouldn't ask him that.
Listen, we're in Red Bank. He's
Yeah.
only
That's-
15 minutes from here.
DA can't get no relief. We don't have it.
I want to.
Anyway,
Can I read the?
Time to go find him.
Can I
yeah.
read? So one of my
Right.
favorite things about books, I just want to say, are we out of time now? Are we
We're
officially out of
getting
time?
close, but if you,
must be out of time.
you should read.
The
Please read.
well, no, I just wanted to say that one of my favorite things about writing books is being done with writing the book. It's so hard to write a book, and you go through these stages. You're like, oh, I got this idea for writing a book, and you like take a lot of notes, and then you have ideas, and then you sit down to write it. And you're like, it's gonna write itself, and then it doesn't write itself, and you're really disappointed. And then you know your wife tells you, remember why you were gonna do this because you thought blah 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 blah. And you're like, oh, you're right. Think. But anyway, and then you write the book, and it's not all what you thought. And when you're all done with the book, then you realize what you meant to write about, or you should have written about, and then you're like, oh, damn, that'd be a great book. But it's always the same book anyway. But one thing I love is I love epigram. I love the quotes at the beginning of a book, and I like to try
You're
to.
a footnote guy too.
I love. Oh my god, I
your
love
footnotes.
footnotes.
Are
I've never seen
Extensive.
footnotes in a book like your footnotes.
Extensive.
I don't. So, but the don't mention that. So anyway, nobody will buy the book. So, but here are the 3 quotes that start this book, and I like this. This is like nobody cares about this, but I like the idea that the quotes would take you in like through the big ideas and into the little ideas or something like that. So the first quote is from John Adams, letter to Thomas Jefferson. Does everybody know that Adams and Jefferson died the same day?
Yes.
That's right.
Kinda interesting.
July 4th, 1826. Is that right?
Both interesting guys, both jerks in their own special ways, but also both very different. Virginia and Massachusetts both had a problem with New Yorkers. And here's what John Adams wrote to Jefferson in 1815. As to the history of the Revolution, my ideas may be peculiar, perhaps singular. What do we mean by the Revolution? The war? That was no part of the Revolution. It was only an effect and consequence of it. The Revolution was in the minds of the people. Okay? I like that quote. Now, here's somebody named Osamu Noguchi, who's a sculptor. There's a museum of his made out of his studio over in Queens. Very interesting guy who worked with rocks and stones. I have a friend who grew up in Japan and in the U.S., and I always joke with him. I said, "Did you know Osamu Noguchi's half Japanese?" Because Noguchi was Irish and Japanese. But anyway, Osamu Noguchi wrote this line: "We are a landscape of all we know." That's what I'm talking about. And the last one is from a book that was loaned to me by a great poet living in New Jersey at the time named Paul Muldoon. This is a book called Episodes in the History of Griggstown. 1976, it was written by Laura P. Terhune.
History of Griggstown.
That's right. And because that's what I love too, is like the minutia. But I
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
minutia making you think big, like about the biggest things about yourself and about the landscape and your community. So her quote is, "It is hoped that the reader," I'm even going to preface this by saying maybe this is all we can hope for in the semiquincentennial, which is, "It is hoped that the reader will relate with the people of the time and will enjoy reminiscing while he reads." We don't have to shoot too high. We don't have to shoot too big. New Jersey. We got the sandwich. We should be sitting back. Like that's all
America's
we need. You got a revolution. This revolution.
glory of the sloppy
Concord,
Joe.
Lexington, blah blah blah.
Yes.
What are you having for lunch?
We have America's
Beans.
sandwich.
They've got
sandwich
beans.
that saved the republic.
Amen.
Massachusetts has beans.
Please.
This is the geology that saved America. Creates the sandwich.
Correct.
And no one knows the story. So this is all right. We got to get the quilt. Well, last thing we do is get the quilt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'll get it.
Okay. Got it?
I'll say that.
It's over there.
one of the things that either kept me sane or kept my wife sane when I was writing this particular book was she's an artist and she makes stuff. She's a ceramicist. Her name is Suzanne Sullivan. And anyway, she made quilts that responded to all the chapters and the ideas.
Wow.
This is the Tom Paine quilt.
I won't be able to tell if it's upside down or not.
That's fine. This is soaked in. This is all soaked in tea. It's upside down. It's a
Right.
Tom Paine quilt. It doesn't matter. It's fine. It looks good no matter what you're doing. Thank God it's not green, the quilt, or blue. But anyway, so the other side of this quilt is the Crossing of Delaware quilt. So if you could turn around now.
There's a lot of blue on that, and we have a blue.
Oh well, we'll see how this goes. Can we see how this goes?
Yeah, yeah. If it
Let's
doesn't
live.
work, it doesn't work.
And for the
People get
people
it.
listening at home, here's the Delaware, and here's the Crossing of the Delaware, and it's very abstract and very cool. And we have a whole series of the quilts. We have some Smithson quilts, some Nancy Holt
Oh, wow,
quilts.
and there's-
We have a
yeah.
signal fire quilt, which you don't light on fire.
Tyranny,
Brian.
like I probably the mic's not picking me up.
Tyranny like hell is not easily conquered, yet we have this consultation with us that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value. So,
I think we end on that.
okay, that and
Yep.
they have beans.
They have beans.
We've got the sandwich.
We've got the sandwich. All right, that was awesome. Thanks so much for coming. You even the route you took here today was a recreation of Washington. The British Army coming from Philadelphia
Right.
across Monmouth County. Did you stop at Freehold and have a fight with somebody?
Right. Battle of Monmouth reenactment.
And now we're to the point where I see
And
you
then-
guys, like I see your lips moving and stuff, but I'm just like, is there a sloppy, like how far is it?
We're in Red Bank, Monmouth County food. That's another.
Come on with me to Newark. We'll hook you up.
Yeah, yeah.
No
All right.
worries.
Thank you guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
Wow,
you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very
Thank you so much for your time.
All right. That wraps it up. That wraps up this episode of the Jersey Angle. Like us, subscribe, follow us all over.
So like us.
Take it easy.
Take care.
That was fun.
Did it work?
Awesome.
Is it over?